Hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing DDL for SQL, and this is for AS Computer Science 9618. So what is DDL? So DDL stands for Data Definition Language. So this is basically a subpart of SQL, and DTL focuses on creating the tables, creating where we'll be storing our data when we actually add our information in our fields and records for whatever entity we're storing, right? So DDL is basically creating the database. So there are a few key component parts we need to discuss for the syllabus. We need to know how to create a table, create a database. We need to know how to set primary keys and foreign keys. We need to also learn how to modify tables. So adding fields, we need to add primary keys or foreign keys, and most also we'll have to do is removing fields. So let's just get started off with how do you create a database. So the database, this is where our data is going to be stored, where tables are going to be stored. And you create this by doing create, and then we can just put our name here. So, and then of course we need to put a semicolon. So basically to create a database, we do create, and then we need to put a database here. So our complete thing will be create database with the name and the semicolon. Next, when we have created our database, we need to add our tables, right? So if we take this example here, we have employee table, project hours tables, we have a project table, right? So let's see, how do you create a table? So we can create a table very similarly to databases using create, and then we need to do table, of course, and then we can set our name. So for example, this name could be employee, right? Or project underscore hours. The next important part is we need to have brackets, and what tends to be the better method or convention of writing is you open brackets and you move to the next line with the indentation. And what you do is you write the field name, right? You write the field name, and then we can write the data type here. So this is how we typically write our tables, and then we put a comma, and we can continue going until we decide to close, and then we can put a semicolon. So for example, one of these field names, taking our example, for employee can be name, and we can put that as a varchar, since it's a variable length of length 255, right? So this is how you create a table. Next is how do you set primary keys in this table. So after I've created this, inside the create table function, we can do primary key all together, or you can put a space, it doesn't make much difference. Primary key, and then we simply need to choose the field we want. So we can, in this case, just put it as name. You can also create a composite primary key by just putting a comma and then putting another field such as age. Of course, these are bad examples, but that's how you create the primary key. Next, the more challenging one would be initializing a foreign key. So if we take the example over here, employee ID is a foreign key for project hours. So how could you create this? So while you're initializing this project hours table, like we did over here, what you can do is a foreign key, foreign key, and again you can put a space or not, does not make a difference. Then we need to put brackets, so we need to choose the field name. So in our case will be employee ID, correct? Now, the next part is we need to call a reference, of course, right? So a foreign key is basically used to link a table to another table. So we need to know what this primary key in project hours, this is the project hours key, what is this referring to? So it references, then we need to put initially we need to put our table name, so we can take employee over here. um, you don't have to put these square brackets. This is just where the name goes. So when you're actually writing the name, you don't include these. And then we need to put another bracket, and we need to create the primary key of this one, which is again employee ID. And we just need to close it off with a semicolon, right? So this is how you create a foreign key inside of your DDL and in a create table statement. Finally, we need to learn how to do altering of tables. So imagine I've already created the employee table, but now I also want to add employee date of birth, right? So we don't have date of birth here. So what I can do is you can do a alter table, and then you put a table name. So name over here. So in our case will be employee. Now similar to the table thing, we open up a bracket and we do add. This is our keyword, and then you can do field here, and you can do data type afterwards. So in our case would be employee underscore date of birth and of type date or varchar. We can put a comma as usual. To add a primary key, we can use to add primary key, and then we choose over here our fields or field. Similarly, we can just do a foreign key, and if you just need to do all of this. It's quite tiresome, but it's fine. You just need to input all of this again like that, and finally to remove, we simply need to do drop, and we put the field name. This is used to remove a field. So imagine I no longer want to hold on to the information about employee termination date. So what I can do is I can drop the employee termination date, and all the values stored in that field will be deleted. So that is how you alter a database, and you can again put the closing brackets and semicolon. So I'll just show you guys an example to understand. So what we can do is something like this, and what typical practice would be indenting it. Here. So it's a little bit hard to do here, but what you would do is you would indent it over here when you do the create table. So let's just break it down. I have a table name which is called member, and what I am doing is I'll just make it larger. Yeah, here. So I'm creating a table with the name member. I have a field called member ID. This member ID is of the type char of 6 letters constant. Now we don't need to know how to set it up. That's fine. We just know it's of 6 letters. Similarly, we can have our first name, our last name, and then our phone number, which can also be an integer. Now, we obviously want to set the primary key for a table for it to be in normal form. So we would choose the primary key, which in the most sensible point here would be member ID. So we would do member ID as the primary key. Now, one more thing we want to do is we want to create the foreign key. So a slight problem here, we need to also initialize the keys, course ID. So we can just do course ID of type varchar, I guess. So we need to create the course ID. Now we can do a foreign key. Course ID is our table name, our field name inside of our table, and this is referring to another table called course, and the primary key of that, which is the course ID. So that is how you set up data definition in SQL for ASCS revision, ASCS, and best of luck to you guys.